Hey friends, magical people, spiritual gods and goddesses. So I wanted to briefly just share with you guys my perspective in spirituality and really when it comes to when I look at the chart. And so when I have a reading with the client, I usually explain this to them. And my perspective of the chart is going to be through the lens of reincarnation, obviously. Or basically you coming into a body, whether this is your first time ever on a physical body or you've been here lifetime after lifetime. We all come here with this intent, with this initial purpose, and an agenda, a lesson that we're wanting to learn, what we want to create, and ultimately to work with within a creative, chaotic environment. We are not forced to reincarnate. We definitely have a choice. And I like looking at this in the birth chart. I look at the birth chart as the intention or the plan of action that your higher self has put in place, or basically that your higher self chose to incarnate in this lifetime in order to work with different energies that are presented through the relationships of the planets at that time. And so it's interesting to me, looking at the moon, Pluto, and in particular Pisces or Neptune. It really gives you an idea of like the ego, the soul, and the spirit. And so the ego is expressed through your moon, your soul is expressed through Pluto, and the spirit is expressed through Neptune. And so the moon, looking at the moon, if you want to take this into the birth chart, like I said, that represents the ego. So my higher self chose to incarnate and experience this lifetime through the lens of the ego, which is also known as the personality as Portia. And so you can look at other places in your chart, like what area of life the moon's in. Looking at the moon as a representation of the past self will also give you a deeper layer of like, how is this ego developed? What emotionally am I working through? Like my emotional temperament, my emotional limitations will give you a great idea of what this ego is about, because our emotions ultimately shape our self-image, which is strongly connected to our ego. And that's where that ego and moon correlation comes into play. You can also look at the relationship of the moon and the sun in your chart to get an idea of how your emotions really interact with your personality, that inner child, and also how it really influences how you show up in the world, how you want to be seen, how you want to be heard, how you creatively actualize any of your intentions set forth, and really connecting it to that past self. So also looking at Pluto, like I said, represents the soul. So here I am. My ego is expressed through Portia, this personality of, you can even, like I said, integrate the sun of Aquarius. Looking at Pluto for me, generationally, is in Scorpio. However, it's in the 12th house. So in the perspective of astrology that I look at, the 12th house is essentially Pisces. So my soul is a Pisces soul, I guess you could say. Pluto, the soul, gives you an idea of what your soul's intentions are coming into this life, what your motives are. And so in evolutionary astrology, we look at Pluto as the soul. And so you would look at where Pluto is, what house Pluto is in, and that will give you an idea of what kind of soul you have. So say if your Pluto is in the 6th house, then that means you have a Virgo soul. Or if it's in the 1st house, you have an Aries soul. So that'll give you some idea. So for me personally, the way I would look at this Pluto in the 12th house is that my soul has the intention of really dissolving all physical desires, connecting to spirituality, connecting to oneness, finding the ultimate meaning of pretty much anything that I interact with, is how that Pluto in the 12th house correlates to my soul expression. And so we're going to connect that to the ego, and we're going to do that through the lens of Aquarius, the personality of Aquarius, if that makes sense. And so Neptune represents the spirit, which this is an interesting one. And really, I just explained the water triad. Everything's been coming to me in threes, which I've been really taking creative advantage of. But yeah, so let's talk about Neptune in the chart represents where your soul seeks transcendence, and basically how you connect to spirit. And this is that spirit element in your chart. And so this is when you really find the ultimate meaning of it all. And so just like Pluto's sign is more of a generational symbolism. Neptune, the sign that Neptune is in, is more of a generational influence. And so therefore you would look at the house that Neptune is in. So my Neptune is in the second house. Therefore, my spirit is integrated with Taurus aspects, and really understanding what we need to survive, what our values are. And so maybe you can kind of see how this theme in my own personal chart is starting to play out, because like I said, with that Pisces soul, where it's like my soul's intention is learning how to really transcend and let go of all physical desires, all separating desires. And then when you look at the Neptune in my chart, it's in the second house, which is the house of physical manifestation. It's the house, it's Taurus's house. And so it's also about, what you need to feel safe and secure in just nature, earth, that grounded, fixed earth. And so therefore it's like my soul is learning to connect to spirit by releasing itself from basically this physical world and what we have associated value to, and like really understanding and culminating, bringing into culmination that whole idea of what is valuable. So you can see how the purpose and intention really starts to come out in the charts when you're looking at these different aspects and looking at, just the themes, how they start to like really present themselves. And one of the things I wanted to mention about Neptune is that, like I said, Neptune in the chart represents where our soul seeks transcendence from, and where we want to really connect back to source and oneness energy. And so therefore the illusions and the fogginess, the murkiness starts to come through when we resist that letting go, when we are emotionally attached. So it's like we have to work through this ego emotional self from the past, working through, our soul's intention in order to connect to spirit and really be able to like let go and come into that realization, or like some people like to say, ascension. So there you go, guys. That is my perspective on spiritual astrology and how I look at the birth chart. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. I am also teaching a spiritual astrology level 1 course starting September 16th, and this is for beginners. So if you guys are really, really interested in this and fascinated, please join me for this course. I still have some spots left. And I'm offering it on sliding scale. So if you guys are interested, definitely let me know, and have a great week. Love you.